Hey, we've just done our second Rogaine in Auckland out of the Rogaine series. It's normally 4, but it's down to 2 this year with many events cancelled. This was a different kind of area. This was open farmland with some areas of forest and very tough physically, very hilly. And Cam Delisle managed to get all 30 controls, so all 1,200 points in 71 minutes, I think I recall, out of the 90 minutes available. So he's in very good physical shape and I think had the best route out of everyone. So let's take a look and see what advice he has to offer. We're going to go through things fairly quickly. So I think if you're on the newer side, I would really recommend looking at my previous Rogaine leg by leg video, so the Riverhead Rogaine one. I think we're a little bit slower, Nick Harris and I, on that video, whereas I think Cam and I are going to get into it fairly rapidly. Hey Cam.
Man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on leg by leg. Can you see the map on the screen?
Yep, I can see it.
Cool. So I was hoping you could take us through the route that you planned today on the Rogaine, since it was so successful for you. But we'll focus on the planning, not the execution. And I just want to hear your logic behind the route you took. And we're also going to talk about if you had less time or if you weren't going as fast, like if you're less physically strong, then what would you cut off and what would be the first ones to cut off, and then we'll steadily go through it. So talk me through the course. How did you start thinking about this terrain and the checkpoints?
Yeah, so I think I had a good idea that it was a sort of a steep area with hills. I think the first thing that stood out to me is it's quite like long and narrow, and obviously the start and the finish are in very different places. So I sort of had this idea that I was
up here.
So this idea that I didn't really want to do lots of looping back on myself. That was sort of the first thing I thought. And the next thing obviously is it's quite a hilly, steep map. So I think the first thing, the second thing I was thinking about was minimizing climb and try and get as much fast running as possible. So I actually started my planning by looking at the way back to the finish, because I thought often one of the biggest clues when you're planning something like a Rogaine is if you've got a long line of controls in a row like that, which is kind of obvious to do, that can kind of help inform what the start and the middle part of your route's like. So
so under what is there any variation at all that you could do?
No, not at all. So that sort of stands out. So it's pretty obvious that 38, 31, 40 looking backwards, like that. So and then I think the next thing I looked at was this sort of line of controls, 39, 41, 56. And you can see if you're attacking those controls along there, then you don't have to do any extra climbing. I think it's all sort of a gradual downhill or on a similar level. So
let's take a closer look.
Yep.
So if we get this index contour, I'll just trace in the index contours. Well, that's one there, and it's the same height. So 39 and 56 are only 3 contours different, and 41 is 3 contours below 39 on this index contour. So that's pretty nice for such a hilly area that they're at a similar height. And even, are you bringing 42 into this?
So I think I stopped my initial planning there because I thought it starts to get different options. Yep. So I think that was sort of that was the first thing I did, and it sort of helped inform the next part, which is sort of I think where the meat of the planning obviously is deciding which way you go out the start. Because obviously if you're going you go 43, 46, 37 are sort of the 3 options, and if you go 43 then
sorry, so slow down a bit. So if you go 43, then you have to think quite carefully about which ones to get early, because obviously you're not going to go 43 to 42 because you need to save kind of one of those or all of those for later. So you could start to 43, but then you'd be coming back to one of these.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that your thinking?
Yep. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking when I was doing that first, looking backwards part. So yeah. So the next part of my planning, I looked at the start and I tried to understand sort of like what the ridge systems were almost, the big contours, where they were and where the flatter areas to run were. And I think the first thing that stood out around the start area is there's this big, quite flat valley that sort of, goes from, through there, but also further up the valley, 43, 46, 54. Yeah, all of those controls up there. Most of them are quite low, and there's like one or two which are only a little bit up off the really flat area. So my first thought upon seeing that is, you don't want to be going down to those controls and then back up the hill if you can avoid it. You want to try and get them at once if possible and avoid that extra climb. So bearing that in mind, I decided that getting 43 first was going to be the way to go, and the decision to make after that is whether you get 54 as well, and 57 and 46, or whether you just go 43, 46.
Hang on. So whether you where's 43? Oh, 43 then 40. Right. So there's that way, and then get out wherever, or to get 55 and then go out. Was that your alternative?
Yeah. Actually 54 was the way I actually went. So
Oh, there. Sorry, I didn't see it. Yeah, in the middle. Yep.
Yeah, you could even do 55 as well. Just the problem with that is 50 and 42 are then sort of sitting by themselves a bit more. So 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 to sort of decide this part, I was also looking forward. So quite a complicated sort of way of doing it at this point, because I'm trying to work out when I'm doing that middle part, that 51, 35, 44, when I'm going to come back that way, whether I want to go up and down the hills or not.
Sorry, this part. Yep. So the point was that these two are at a lower level, but 35 is really high. So do you get 35 early and then do something like that, or do you get 35 whenever you happen to get those ones? I was battling with that decision also.
So I'm not sure it was the right decision, but I actually I was really dithering on this sort of the whole right for the planning time, actually 35 and 57 for that matter, whether to go all the way up the hill. But then I decided that if you look at it's really sort of determined by 51 to 44, I think. If you look at going straight from 51 to 44, there's that area of light green and those high fences and lots of the contours. And I sort of just decided that, without knowing, how well, how things are mapped out there, maybe the light green's really, really tough. Maybe I have to go up the hill a bit to go around it. And I just thought it's simple and quite easy just to go up to 35 at that point and take on the climb there and not take the risk of
right. So there's a risk here. So we might get pushed up anyway. In which case we're close to 35. So how about we embrace that and actually get 51, 35 later on? Okay. So that solves the problem, and now it's obvious to get just 57.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where you're going.
Keep going along the flat to 46. Yep.
And just out of interest, did you stay low when you got 57, or did you kind of go up and over?
No, I stayed very low. I actually came quite far left there.
Like that.
That area there was really fast. But we've drawn the line was quite fast, because the hillside looked a bit, like not quite, a bit more rough and that. So I just
interesting.
Yeah. So from then it gets a bit simpler. So you sort of obviously have to go 46, 59, 37, 48, around like that. Yep. 36. And then over to 58 and up to 33. So I think that sort of, the main choke point there was this sort of area at the start, at least.
Middle here.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. And now the rest.
Yep. So from 44 to 49, there's obviously some nice tracks in that on the way there. So it's a bit of a no-brainer to keep going along at the same height. And then there's a bit of a decision here, and I think I may have got this potentially a bit wrong, and that's how to do this. So it's quite a funny shape, these next four from 49.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You've got to get some kind of link out here like this and consider these.
Yeah. And, it's sort of, there's a lot of factors that can potentially play into this, because you've also got the different sort of runnability of these steep slopes and the rough open versus, quite fast tracks. And
this is pretty rough.
And obviously some climbs in there as well. And I think I looked at the contours, and I sort of, my priority here was more contours rather than runnability. So I just took on the climb at the start up to 30, and then ran along that track to 53. And the reason why I did it like this was I had this idea of using the track to 45, to sort of the west side of 45, utilizing that, because I thought it'd be really, really quick.
This big track, yeah.
Yeah, so
and that links you back into that stuff quite nicely.
Exactly, yeah. So I thought if I get 30 at the, early on instead of on the way back through, then I can run really, really fast down that track. So 53 to 52, I went actually lower to that one of this climb.
Cool. And then did you use the track on this one?
Yeah, utilize that track.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. I think that is the best way. And I think a lot of us actually got that wrong. And I think your logic was key here at 30. A number of us got 53 earlier. Right. And then went down. Well, some of us didn't get 52 as well, which complicates the variations. But then if you end up at 45 and you haven't got 30 earlier, then you have to climb again from 45 to 30.
There's actually another.
There's actually quite a few contours in there that you end up doing extra that you didn't do. You never traveled between 45 and 30. And 30 and 50 and 53 are a similar height. If you're attacking from the top, it's a similar height. So yeah, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, I think it's one of a variation though, which I talked to Daniel Monkton about afterwards, and he went straight from 49 to 52 actually, and used that really sort of track. He says quite fast. And
that's worth noting. It's a much longer distance, but the track is such a big speed boost. And then did he come around and then up once?
Yeah, I assume he maybe did my route in reverse from 52 to 53, and then.
He must have done that then.
Yeah. And I mean, because 45 to 30, you can maybe run along if you go along the contour, but then it's rough open, so it's a bit of a risk.
Can confirm was rough.
Yeah, right. Yep. So, maybe didn't pay off in that respect, but yep. So, So obviously 34 next, and then to get to 56, so I've gone 55, 50, 42, 56, which is
pretty obvious. There's only really one way.
Obvious, yeah.
Yep. And you only really climb a bit there, and then the rest of the climb is there. And then from 50 back out to 32, really, you're actually not doing much climb through all of those.
No. And the nice thing is, again, you're not taking the climb generally straight on. You can sort of contour around with, so I was able to run pretty much no problems 34 all the way to the finish pretty much. Just running on the contour rather than Cool.
So let's say time's getting tighter. What are you missing out first?
So I think so I did actually have I think about this because you don't know what the terrain's going to be like before you start, and the first thing that stands out is right in the south. These legs like 52, 53, 45, because it's sort of an out and back without a lot of point value. So and also getting sort of halfway to 2/3 of the way through the course. I think they're the obvious ones if you're trying to get them all but you're not sure. You can get 53 and then 45, not go to 52.
So this is the first one to go?
Yeah, first one to go. Yep.
And then what's the second one to go? You reckon 53?
Yeah, I think 53, 45 is sort of...
Oh, okay. Yep.
But that sort of comes at that, decision point. But hopefully you sort of... I think if you've got that little time, you should get a hint of it early on. And I think 58's another potential one.
It's quite far from its nearest controls.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's a bit of a climb there. Whereas if you take the climb from 36 to 33, it's more gradual. whereas going straight from 58 to 33 it's quite steep. So yeah.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. Let's keep trimming off. What ones are the next?
Yeah. So
the next lowest yield.
I think even 35. I think potentially.
Yeah, I reckon that guy. It seems so close, but the height difference between its neighboring controls.
Yeah, that's almost a 75-meter climb. I think from 51 up to there. So it's it's real slow and.
In which case you would just go across.
Yeah.
Like that, and these ones here, I guess you'd get 30 and head down if you miss those.
Yep. Yeah, and I think the next opportunity is that number 50.
Yep.
That sort of out and back sort of thing, and
and these two are actually closer together than any than that is, and closer than that also. So.
I don't think there's a lot more after that because you've sort of got this big long line of controls to the finish. So yeah,
that's right. So you do have to be thinking about the time early on and really assessing how you're going in the first half an hour even, because I imagine a lot of people are making the big call about when it's straight line to the finish at like 45 minutes, which is quite early. Often in a Rogaine, you're making that call around an hour 10. If you've got 90 minutes, then you can expand or contract your route. But because all this last part is fairly well predetermined, the decisions really end in here somewhere, which I imagine is 45 minutes for many people.
Yeah, I think if you sort of
tricky.
Get down to, I guess, like down to that south area, and you've only got 45 minutes or whatever left, and you're not leaving yourself a lot of options also to cut out. It's if you go all the way down to this one further south, 52, then almost every control on the way back is on the way back. So there's very little cutout opportunities in that respect.
Yeah, I think if you're running late at that stage, you might as well get them all on the way back, because you're going to be losing points at the finish anyway. At least counter that as much as you can by getting the controls, actually getting some scores on the way back. Sweet. All right. Nice job on that.
Cool.
Might have had the best route and the best legs out there. Nice.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Cameron.
Cool.
So the main things I got from Cameron is, of course, we need to take the elevation into account when we're planning the legs, not just the straight line distance between the control points. And we need to plan those cutoffs again. And I think in the previous video, in the previous Rogaine video, the Riverhead Rogaine, I recommended that you set some kind of zigzag at the end of your Rogaine route so that you can expand or contract the number of controls that you're doing based on how far you're going close to the end. Whereas today totally prevented you from doing that because the last half an hour was more or less predetermined. So you're really timing it down to a 60-minute Rogaine and having to make those decisions up at a much earlier time. So it was really tricky, and actually quite good to see. And it's easier talking to someone like Cameron who's got all the controls, because you don't actually have to think about those cutoffs quite so much. But as he said, you never know how it's going to be when you're out there. So he plans for the cutoffs anyway, and it was good that he could still identify what are the lowest yield controls. And they're not necessarily 30 pointers, but sometimes you've got to think about points per minute. So you've got to think about, there's that 50 points, but it's going to take me 5 minutes to get to. That's 10 points per minute. Whereas if that's a 30 pointer and it's only going to take me 2 minutes to get to, then that's 15 points per minute. So that's actually better. So knowing kind of how long, measured in minutes, it's going to take you to get to each control can help you identify which ones are the lowest yield. And of course, I'm aiming at an intermediate to advanced Orienteer, where the navigation isn't the biggest challenge here, and we can really attack each control. Whereas I think for someone who's a beginner, then leave the 50 points alone, and you've got a much harder job actually. You've got to be not too tempted by the higher points, even if they're close. There's just more variables to play with if your navigation isn't at the level of someone like Cam's. So I hope you found that interesting. See you next time.